This is the second video in an instructional series on how to design a timber frame in Fusion 360 done for the Yes Tomorrow Design Build School. My name is Ben Weiss, the instructor, and in this video we will draw the timbers in the first bent. So let's get started. So here's where our model stands after the first video. We have a master component, and inside that master component is a single body, which is currently transparent because we set its appearance to air. And we also have three sketches. The one on the bottom here is a post plan. So that's where all our posts will exist. And this defines the outer dimension of the building. The second sketch we made in the center of the building and used to extrude this body right here. And then the third sketch was kind of an outline of the bent timbers, which we're about to draw. Now, one thing I noticed when we did this last sketch, we did some projections, and that's what these purple lines are. If that bothers you, we can go back into the bent sketch, either by double-clicking here, or by finding it in the timeline, which is right here, and right-clicking and editing the sketch there. There's also a third way to do it. If you right-click on any element in the sketch, you can edit a sketch. So I'm just going to go to the Sketch Palette dialog box, turn off the projected geometries, and for some reason this line drops out. So I'm going to get my line tool and then just draw this line back in, finish our sketch, and then we take a look at it from the front side, and that looks good. Okay, so the very first thing we want to do here is create another component. So we have everything inside this master component. It's very convenient. We can hide it and show it. But we want to be able to do that for the first bent as well. So if I was to create a new component with the master component activated, which is what this little fisheye is right here, the new component would go inside or below this master component. That's not what I want. I want it on the same level. So the very first thing I need to do is activate the top level component and then create a new component. So I will call this bent 1. All right, and now we can do sketches inside that, or even create other components inside that. So let's go ahead and show our post plan from the master component, and we can move around here, but our bent 1 is still active. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make some posts here. And I tell you what, let's also turn on our bent plan. Okay, so that's going to be a nice guide as to where all of our stuff is going to go. All right, so to extrude a post, all we have to do is select this profile and then use the extrude feature. So I'm going to click there. I'm going to go up to extrude. So when the dialog box pops up, it shows we've already got a profile selected. If I hadn't pre-selected that profile, or if I kill it now, I can go back in and select it. Okay, so the arrow, the extrude arrow, is pointing upward. So if we pull that, we see the beginning of the extrusion. We want to be able to go up to this line. So if we pull this up, we can kind of see where we're at here. Unfortunately, I don't know of a way to snap to that line. You can snap to other bodies, but let's give it a try here. Let's see. If we don't set the distance, we want to go to an object instead of a distance. So will we be able to select this object? I don't see a way to do that. Okay, but we do know our distance is the same as this line right here. So let's back out of the feature and let's just click on this edge line, and it says 11 feet 4 inches in the bottom right corner of our screen. So I will start up the extrude again. And I will select this profile and start pulling up. And then I know I need to go up 11 feet 4 inches and press enter. And there is a timber. So let's go over to our browser and see what happened. So I'm going to collapse master and I'm going to expand bent 1. And right now we have a body inside bent 1. Now we could take this approach and make all of these timbers individual bodies inside this bent, but I actually want each one of these timbers to be a component. That will really aid us when we're doing our construction drawings. So let's undo that. And let's do the extrusion one more time. And once again, select this profile. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to do 11 foot 4 inches like last time. Oops, 11 foot 4 inches. Okay, now let me edit that. Still don't have it right. 11 foot 4 inches. Okay, that's right. Now, instead of the operation being a new body, I want the operation to be a new component. So I'm going to select new component. And now when I OK, I still get the same body created, but it is now inside this new component. And it's automatically named by Fusion. And here's our body inside there. So first thing, now that the component, this first post is created, I'm going to click and second click. So you can't double click. You have to click, wait, and click a second time. I'm going to name that post 1A. Now my numbering system, which is pretty typical, is that every timber in the first bent gets a 1 to it. So this is post 1, but this is in wall A. So 1A, this post here is going to be 1B, 1C, 1D. Okay, so post 1A component has been created, and now we activate it. And that, if we did any more sketches or what have you, we would be working inside there. Okay. Another reason to isolate and use multiple components like this is the timeline. Now we haven't gone into the timeline yet, but if I go up to the top level and activate that, you'll see we have 8 or 10 things in the timeline, different features. We can rewind the timeline and go back to when things were extruded or created. And each one of these down here is an icon that matches the feature up here in the toolbar. So this was the creation of a component. Here were 2 sketches. This was the extrusion for the mass model. But things can be hidden over here too. So unless you specifically go in and show things like this body, you wouldn't see that body going away as you rewind the timeline. Now we will see it, and now we will see it created. But sometimes as you're scrubbing this timeline, you don't see anything happening. It's because your bodies or sketches have been hidden over here in the browser. Okay, so my point was this timeline for the master component is going to have every operation in here, every sketch, every feature, and it's going to get really complicated. But when you activate a component, you'll see only the features of that component are in this simplified timeline. So that's another reason for sticking everything inside components. Okay. Now, one of the interesting things in Fusion is you can go back in time and you can edit one of these features. And this is going to come in real handy in a minute when we start adding joinery to this. But let's go ahead and create our second post, and then I think we're going to start adding some joinery to those posts. Okay, so same thing as before. we want to make sure we're in bent 1, and then we're going to do an extrusion of this profile down here. Actually, I want to hide this master body so that we can hover over this. Did I hide it? Yeah, so we can hover over this profile and pull this up. Okay, so we've got bent 1 as the active component. I'm going to collapse this tree so it's a little less busy. And let's go ahead and do another extrude. And we're going to select our profile, which is going to be this rectangle right here. And let's see, one thing I didn't do, I want to get my dimension here first. So I'm going to cancel out of that. Click on this line, look down here and see that the post height is 18 foot 8 inches. Okay, great. All right, so let's do an extrude. First thing, we're going to select our profile, which is right here. We can go upward and 11 foot 8 inches and press enter. Oh, that was not the right dimension. Let me click on here. Okay, it was 18 foot 8 inches, sorry. So now that I've done that extrusion, this is actually a good example. I can go into the timeline and right click and edit that feature. And I can say, okay, that was supposed to be 18 feet 8 inches, and then press enter. So I didn't have to do a second extrusion. I essentially went back to the first extrusion and fixed it. So that's very handy, something that you can't do in SketchUp. You would have to do a second extrusion. Okay, so there is our second post. Now let's go ahead and do some joinery. This is going to be, this square represents a plate that's going to sit on top of this post 1A. Well, you know what? Let me back up a second. I did that wrong again. So I'm going to undo that, undo the extrusion all the way, because I want to create a new component. I want to create post 1B. So another attempt at this extrusion. I'm going to go to extrude. I'm going to select the profile. I'm going to go up and type in 18 foot 8 inches. And then I'm going to select a new component here. Okay, and then click OK. So here's our component. It's at the same level as our other post. I'm going to click a second time, and call this post 1B. So it's in bent 1, wall B. Okay. So now we have our two posts, and I can hide. Well, at this point, let's go ahead and hide our master. And there's our two posts. There's post 1A and 1B. Okay, so with our sketches back on, we are actually going to extrude this post up an extra ½ inch because it's going to go into the housing of this plate, and the same thing here. So in order to do that, we can go to each of these posts and activate a post. Here's the extrusion. Right click, edit the feature, and now we're going to add a ½ inch. So 11 foot 4 and 1/2 inch. That's going to pull that up into that plate so that it's properly housed, again using the square method of timber framing that's taught at Yes Tomorrow. And we will do the same with post 1B. We will activate that, go to its extrusion, right click on it in the timeline, go to edit feature, and change its extrusion value to 18 foot 8.5 inches. So we can see that that's cutting, eventually will be cutting into this plate or beam that sits on top of the post. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the reduction on these posts. So I'm going to start with post 1A, activate that, and I'm actually going to create a sketch inside there. That's why I activated it. So I think I'm going to pre-select this face of the timber and do my sketch. Okay, so what I'm seeing is actually both timbers here. So just to make it less confusing, I'm going to hide 1B, and then I'm going to go look at. So now we're looking at the side. And basically what I want to do here is I want to get my line tool, and I am intersecting with the top of the post, coming straight down 1 inch, typing in 1, pressing enter. Okay, I can move my dimension over here. And then I'm going to hit L again, and this time I want a 45-degree angle for this reduction. So if I type in 45 here, and then make sure that it intersects here, I've got a second line. Okay. So now I should be able to hover over this and use that, to cut away that area. Okay, so those two things are in my sketch, those two lines. I'm going to finish the sketch, and I'm going to open up post 1A, and I'm actually going to label this sketch because we're going to have a couple of sketches in here. So I'm going to slow double click on that and call that reduction. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do the cut here just so you see what I'm doing. Again, I'm in post 1A, that's the active component. I will click on this surface here and go to extrude. And this time, my operation is going to be a cut. And now when I start pushing this surface back, for the distance, I can just say all. So it's going to cut all the way through that timber. All right. Now, one thing to be aware of when you do an all is if you have other bodies that show up in the same plane, you do want to take a look and see which bodies it's cutting through. But as long as everything else is hidden, you don't have to open this up and worry about it. But if I had post 1B open here and I was doing a cut and I was viewing it this way, we might have to worry about whether we're cutting through two posts. But in this case, we didn't have it open, so I think we're good there. All right, so I'm going to finalize this. So I have done this cut. And now we see in our timeline, we have the original extrude, then we did a sketch, and then we had that cut of the reduction. Okay, so let's do another sketch and actually do our first tenon. So I actually want to do a sketch on this top surface here. So again, I'm in post 1A as the active component. I'm going to pre-select this surface. I'm going to go to create sketch. So we're looking straight down on it. We're seeing the reduction right here. So I'm going to hit R for rect, and I'm going to purposely intersect. Well, actually, I don't want to because that tenon doesn't go all the way through. So I'm going to do a rectangle here. All right, and this is, the first dimension is going to be 2, so it's a 2-inch wide tenon, and this one's going to be 4. Okay, so now we need another dimension in here. We need to know where is this tenon in relationship to the outside of the post, and it's going to be 2 inches in. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish our sketch and name the sketch. So this is the one we were working on. So I'm going to slow double click on that and call this tenon. Okay. So now I can click on that and do an E for extrude and pull this up. And let's say that tenon is 4 inches deep. Okay. So the reason I didn't go to the front of this post is that the mortise that is associated with this tenon would have cut all the way through our top plate. So generally you have, you want some relish there, not cutting all the way through that plate. Okay, so that's our first tenon. It is 2 inches away from this edge. It's 4 inches tall and it's 2 inches wide. so that timber is pretty much finished. We do have, some other stuff that's going to happen in there, but mortises. But we're not going to cut mortises until we get all of our tenons, all of our timbers created with their tenons. Okay, so we're going to do the same operation that we did on post 1A in post 1B. So let's collapse post 1A, and let's activate post 1B, and let's show it, and then let's open it up. We can see right now all we have in there is a single body. I'm not going to name these bodies. I don't name bodies or sketches if there's just one of them inside a component. It's kind of obvious what it is. That is the post body. But if there were multiples, for instance, in this case, in post 1I, we had multiple sketches. So in that case, I will name them. You don't have to, but that way you know what the things are if you want to go in and edit them. Okay, so we're now in post 1B. That's active. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to hide our master. And let's go ahead and do a sketch on this face. So I'm going to pre-select. I'm going to go up to create sketch, and then I'm going to hit L for line, intersect on this line right here, go down 1 inch, and press enter. So that's our 1 inch line. That's going to be the start of our reduction. Let's do a dimension here from here to here, and that's going to be a 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch in from the edge. And then we're going to get another line. This line we wanted on a 45-degree angle. So we type in 45 there and make sure that it also intersects the side. Okay, that makes me think, I don't remember doing a 1/2 inch depth reduction on the other sketch. So this is a good example on how you can go back in time and change that sketch. But let me finish here first, and then we'll go fix the other one. Okay, so I think that's all we need for cutting the reduction. So let's finish the sketch. Now let's open up our sketches folder, and let's name that sketch. Same as before. Same as in the other post. I'm going to name that reduction. Okay, so now I'm going to click on the profile, press E for extrude, start pushing this back. And now in this case, you can see that Fusion figures out that I want to do a cut just because of the way that I started to initially push that. So that's fine. That's already preset. So all I really need to do is set the distance, which I could either type in 8 inches or I can do an all, either one. Okay, so the reduction has been cut. Now I want to do the tenon, same as last time. So that's the surface I want to sketch on. Create another sketch. And now I'm going to do a rectangle. And you know what? That snapped to the center, so I'm going to hit escape. Let's get away from the center because that would have kept it on the center. So, okay, so now we've got this tenon is going to be 4 inches deep. Actually, that doesn't look deep enough, does it? Let's try 4.5. And this is going to be 2 inches. Okay. So what I wanted was a distance from here to here of 2 inches. I've actually got 3 inches. So let me edit that dimension. So that's going to be 5.5 inches from that side. Okay. And this is 2 inches wide. And the tenon, if I get my dimension by pressing D, I'm going to set that to 2 inches. Okay, so let's verify everything first here. If I click on that line, that's 5.5 inches. Click on this line, it's 2. I can see it's 2 inches from the face. So that should be fine. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click on this, hit extrude, come up and type in 4 inches and press enter. Now you can see the operation here is join. And again, that got set automatically by Fusion. I want this new thing that I'm creating joining this body. So that's what join is all about. Okay, so again, I'm going to rename this sketch the tenon. And let's just look at the timeline of post 1B. Let's go back in time. So that's the extrusion of the tenon. This is the sketch of the tenon. If we go back another one, this is the cut of the reduction. This is the sketch for the reduction. And this is the original extrusion of the entire post. Now, what I think I screwed up on is in post 1A, I'm not sure I positioned the reduction correctly. So not a problem. We can activate post 1A. I'm going to collapse post 1B. Let's hide post 1B too. So here's our post 1A. And yeah, I did a gigantic reduction here. So let's go back to that sketch. So in our tree, we can say, okay, here's our reduction sketch. I'm going to double click on it. That's going to open the sketch up. And now, yeah, I don't have a dimension going in this way. So I'm going to press D from here to here. We want that to be a 1/2 inch. And you see how everything else automatically adjusted itself because it was fully constrained. This is still 1 inch. This is still at a 45-degree angle. So now the cool thing is when I finish this sketch, Fusion is essentially going to replay everything it did, and it did the extrusion. Okay, so now the other thing that I got wrong was the depth of the tenon sketch. So let's go to this tenon sketch, right-click, edit is another way of getting in there. And I'm going to zoom out until I find it. And you can see that this 4 inches is not, that's supposed to be 5.5. So I'm going to double-click here, type in 5.5. What I really want is a distance. If I do an inspect here, I'm going to press I for inspect and measure from here to here. What I really want is 2 inches, which is what I've got. So that's a better looking tenon. So I'm going to close the measurement and I will finish the sketch. And again, Fusion just replays everything in the timeline. So the extrusion is going to happen. I don't have to go back and do that. So it's very typical to realize you've screwed up a sketch, go back, fix the sketch, and if the sketch was used for an extrusion, that just happens automatically. So let's take a look and see what we've got now. Let's show both posts. I'm not sure what this is, and you know, sometimes things happen in Fusion that you're not sure of. So what I'm going to do is right click on it and edit sketch. So this is the sketch that this line is in. It looks like it's a projection. I don't want this, so I'm just going to click on it and finish the sketch, and everything's back to where we want. Now, one thing you notice is, you know, there's some extra jazz going on here. This is the sketch. So I want to go into post 1A, hide all the sketches, go into post 1B, and hide all the sketches. And now it's a clean looking body where we're not seeing the sketches at the same time. So that is how to do the first two posts, post 1A and 1B, with their tenons done in square method where we have reductions and an extra 1/2 inch poking into the top plate. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create the tie beam that ties these two posts together. So let's show our master component that's got our bent drawing in it, or bent sketch in it. And you can see this is exactly where we want that timber to be. Now, since we have a profile right here in our sketch, we can conveniently use that and just push this thing back and get our timber. So again, I want this body eventually that we're going to extrude to be in its own component. So we've been doing that in the extrude command. I'm going to show you a different way to do it, kind of pre-making the component. So we're going to go up to bent 1, and we're going to create a component inside bent 1, which will put it on the same level as these two posts. So create component, and I'm going to call this tie 1AB. So it's a tie in bent 1, and it spans from wall A to wall B. Okay, so now that shows up and it got activated, which is nice. So if we are to create a body right now using this profile, it's going to go into that component. So let's do that. So E for extrude, I'm going to push this back. I know it's 8 inches, so I'm going to type in 8. Now you see how it went the wrong way here. So I'm going to type in -8, and that gets it going in the right direction. It's really kind of arbitrary which way that initial arrow goes, and I didn't pay attention to that. But if you do pay attention to it, if you want to go in the direction of the arrow, it's a positive value. If you want to go in the opposite direction, it's a negative value. Okay, so here I don't want to create a new component. I've already got the component. I want to create a new body inside the active component. So that's what we're going to get right now. So if we open up that active component in the bodies folder, you can see we have made this body. And what's left behind is this sketch from the master component. Okay, so great. Now, I think we can go ahead and hide the master component. And again, with square method, this post is going to extrude a 1/2 inch, I'm sorry, this beam right here is going to extrude a 1/2 inch into this post and a 1/2 inch into this post. So let's go ahead and do 2 quick extrudes without even doing a sketch. You know what? Let's do that first. Okay, so I think the easiest way to do that is to hide post 1A. We are in tie beam 1AB. We're going to click on this surface, hit E for extrude, and just pull this and type in 0.5, so a 1/2 inch. If I show the post, you'll see what happened. We just extruded it a 1/2 inch into that post. Now, I'm going to come around the other side, hide post 1B, and do another extrude here, E for extrude, pull this and type in 0.5. Show that post. So now we've got our extra length to that post. And now we can do our reduction and our tenons. Okay, so to do the reduction, again, we're in the proper component. Click on the face that you want to create the sketch on. Create a sketch. And now I'm going to go to this end, and I'm going to do a line here, making sure I'm intersecting with the end of the beam. And this is going to be 1 inch long. And then it's also going to be a 1/2 inch away from the end here. I mean, really, in actuality, you should be measuring from this reference surface, and it would be 7.5. So let me go ahead and do that. So I'm going to hit D for dimension, click on this line, and click on this line, and then the dimension is really 7.5 from our reference edge, which is right here. Okay, so L for line, I'm going to intersect here, I'm going to tab and get 45 degrees, and then make sure I intersect here, right there. Okay, and enter. Okay, so now, let me zoom out. I should have something that I can hover over, and I'm not getting it. I think I was a little sloppy when I was creating that line, so let me undo. I was. One thing that I have trouble with in Fusion is when I go into the line tool, if I act a little too quickly, I get a little mini line for some reason. So after that initial click, wait a second and then move. Okay, so I'm going to tab here. This is going to be 135 degrees. Same as 45, but spinning around in a different direction. And then make sure I get intersected here. Okay, so now I get a fully constrained sketch. It all went black. And when I finish this sketch, I can go ahead and hover over that. Now, I've got that reduction over here. So I can put that in the same sketch. So we've finished the sketch. I'm going to name it. I'm going to call it reduction, but I'm going to go back in and edit it. So right click, edit sketch, and I've got these two little pieces of geometry. I'm going to create them over here. So I'm on this outside surface. I click, I go horizontal and type in 1 and enter. And then I get my dimension from the top of the timber. So D for dimension, click on that line and this one. And this is going to be 7.5. And then L for line, click here, tab to my degrees, 45, and make sure that I'm intersecting here. And there's my fully constrained sketch. Okay, so finish the sketch. Let's look at it straight on. And we can hide the body that we're working on and just see the sketches. Or turn the body back on. Okay, so let's go ahead and hide the two posts. And now we're going to cut the reductions. So we can do that in a single extrude. As long as your extrude is in the same body and it's going the same distance, you can select multiple profiles. So I'm going to hit E for extrude. And now when I select, you see it says one selected. I'm going to go to this other side and click here. And now in the dialog box, we see that there's two selected. Now, let's get on a slight angle here so that we can see our push-pull arrow. There it is. So it's going in the opposite direction. But if I go this way, Fusion figures out that it's a cut operation. And in this case, I can either put a distance of 8 or I can simply say all here, which I'll do. Okay, so now if we hide our sketches, you'll see we've got our tie beam reductions cut. If we put our posts back in there, you can see how it looks. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is to do a tenon on each end. So we're going to show our sketches. And we're going to create a sketch on one of these two ends. And then I'll show you a little shortcut way we can do the second sketch using projections. So I'm going to pre-select this surface. I'm going to go to create sketch. We got oriented looking straight at that surface. And now I'm going to get a rectangle and go all the way from the top down to the reduction. Type in 2 inches here and enter. Now we've got a couple of blue areas. Again, if you want to see what's going on, you can see how can I move this. I can't move it up and down, but I can move it side to side. So I need to fix the dimension here. So D, I'm going to click on the outside of the timber and click here, and I want that to be 2 inches. And now it all went black. So this didn't go black, so let's see. If we wanted to fully constrain this, I think it's a matter of putting this dimension into, this 7.5 inches. Okay, so now it's fully black. And I'm in the sketch, so I'm going to finish it. I'm going to go name it in our browser. I'll name it tenon. And now I'm going to hover over the tenon, click on it, and extrude it. And I could make this tenon here, and that's going to be 4 inches. Okay, so now I want to do the same thing on the other side. It's got the same tenon, and I have to draw the same sketch. Or do I? Well, since this is kind of a mirror image, I'm going to project this sketch over here. So I'm going to start and create a sketch. And then I'm going to come back here and hit P for project. And now I can kind of get these lines by just clicking on each one of these guys. And these 4 lines now are projected onto this surface. It's a little hard to see it, but it's in purple there. So I'm going to click OK. And now I have essentially that same sketch that we did on this side of the timber projected over here. And you can see I'm ready to go. I can do my extrusion because I've got a closed profile. So I'm going to finish the sketch. I'm just going to call this tenon 2. And then click on it, do an extrude, pull it out. This is set to join, which is what I want, 4 inches. Okay. So if we look straight at it, we will, it's a little confusing seeing it with the sketches, so I'm going to hide the sketches. And there's our timber. This timber is almost finished. All it needs are some mortises for the braces, but we're going to hold off again on mortises until we get all of the timbers and all of the tenons done, and then I'll show you how quickly you can cut mortises. All right, so let's turn everything back on to see what we've got here. So we've got a pretty good start. We've got 2 posts and the connecting timber. Now, you can mirror components as well as mirror geometry within a sketch, and that's what this is right here. So instead of having to draw all those components, I want to mirror image them. So let's try doing that. So first thing is I'm going to go to my master sketch, and I can see what I need to do. I need to mirror these 3 components. I want to go up to bent number 1 and activate that. Let's collapse this. So we have 3. If I just click on these, you'll see them highlighted there in the design. We have 3 components inside the bent. We want to make 3 more components that are almost identical to these, but they're actually mirror images. The reason we did the tenons first here is that those tenons are also going to appear over here when we mirror image those posts. And the same thing with this tie beam. So if we activate bent 1, we go up to mirror command. Now the mirror said, what do you want to mirror? Do you want to mirror bodies? No, we want to mirror components. Okay, so now I am selecting components. I can either do that in this browser tree, and you can see all 3 of those are selected, or I can kill this and actually click on the component. Problem here is that this sketch is in the way, so I'm actually going to hide our bent sketch inside the master component. Okay, but we're still active in bent 1. So now I can select my components this way by just clicking on them. So either way, either selecting them in the tree or in the design space, but you can see they're highlighted in both. And now it's saying, okay, what's the mirror plane that you want to mirror these components about? So I go down and select that. And the nice thing is my origin actually pops up automatically. It was hidden, but it's temporarily unhidden while you do a mirror command, which is convenient. So I'm going to pick this plane. These planes are infinite. They go throughout the entire model. Even though it looks like it's just kind of in the center of the building, this plane continues throughout, entire 3D space. So I'm going to click on that, and this is a preview of what we're going to get if we click OK. These 3 timbers over here. So that looks good. They're in the right position. They're the right height, and they're mirrored so that you see how the tenon is now on the outside and also on the outside here. So that's exactly what we want, and we're going to click OK. And now let's see what we get over in our browser tree. We get post 1A mirror, and if I click on that, it's showing here. Post 1B mirror and tie 1AB mirror. So I can rename these guys and say, okay, this is going to be post 1C, okay, and this one's going to be post 1D, and I'm going to rename the tie beam to tie, click on it a second time, to tie CD. So it went from wall C to wall D. Okay. So very quickly we created 3 more timbers. that were mirror imaged from the first three. Okay, so we still have a tie beam to do, and then we'll be done with bent one except for braces. So let's go back to our master, and let's turn on the bent sketch, which is defining the position of this tie. And conveniently, we have a profile that we can extrude. So we're going to take the same approach as we did for the other tie beam. We're going to pre-make a component inside bent one. Okay, so I'm going to create a component with bent one as the active component. So the new component is subordinate to that. And I'm going to call this tie, tie 1, so it's in bent 1, and it goes from wall B to C. So tie 1BC. Okay, so here it is. It got created. There's nothing in it right now except for an origin, but it also got activated. Okay, so since it's activated, when I extrude this, which I'll do right now, that body is going to go inside that active component. So the distance of my extrude, oh, now this is a negative extrude, so -8. Okay, so now we want to extrude it into a 1/2 inch into both of the inner posts. So let's hide the two inner posts. So that's post 1B and 1C. We can get rid of our bent plan. Oops, post 1C I wanted to hide. Isn't that, oh, okay, I named these wrong, so let's fix that. That's supposed to be post 1C. Oops, let's see, what do I got going here? Yeah, post 1C is 1D and vice versa. So let's see, I'm going to have to name this post 1DX. And then I can name this one post 1C. And then I can come back and name this post 1D. Okay, so let's make sure we got it right here. I'm going to hide everything except for the one post at a time. So we've got post 1A, that's correct, post 1B, post 1C, and post 1D. Okay, great. So I just wanted to hide the inner two posts, 1B and C. We can leave the outer two on there, and we can leave the two tie beams that we already have, oh, and the third tie beam. Okay, great. Now, we want to do 2 quick extrudes, one here and one on the opposite side. So this is our active component, the one we're working on. So I'm going to do an extrude, arrows going in the proper direction. So I type in 0.5 and come around here, click on that, do an E, pull that back. Again, this is set to join, 0.5 here. Okay, let's turn on our posts and make sure the extrudes happen in the right way. So 1C and 1B go back on, zoom in, and we can see we're cutting a 1/2 inch into the two inner posts. Okay, so very similar to what we did on this tie beam. We're going to do the reduction sketch. So let's clean up our browser a little bit. So here's our active component. We are going to make a sketch within there. So we're going to pre-select the face we want the sketch to be on, create the sketch, and then make a line, intersect the outside. Actually, it's going to be easier if we hide those two inner posts. So 1B and 1C are going to be hidden. Okay. And we're going to come in here 1 inch. See, I kind of screwed that up somehow. I'm going to undo that. Again, if you're a little too quick with the line tool, funny things happen. So I undid, so I have to redo my hiding. All right, L for line, click and wait a second, and then come in 1 inch. And then Now this is going to be measured down from the top, a 1/2 inch less than the height of this timber. So the height of this timber is 12. So if I get my dimension tool and go from here to here and click, I want this to be 11.5. All right. And then L for line, intersect here, set our angle to 100, our angle to 135, and then get our line. Oh, this was set to 13. Let me undo that. All right, starting again, L for line, click, oops, we're still in the line, still creating that line. Okay, I escaped out of there. L for line, click there, and tab 145. No, it's 135, right? 135, that looks better. That's locked in, and then we can intersect that edge. Okay, so essentially a 45-degree angle. Okay, now let me show you something. I'm not going to redraw this over on the other side, even though I need a sketch over there to do the extrusion. Since this timber is right in the middle of the building, why not use a mirror plane to mirror it over? So I go to my sketch mirror command, and it's saying select your object. So I'm going to click and click. Those are the two lines that I want to mirror. Then I click here. That's going to allow me to select my mirror line. And I need to show the origin. So I show it, pick that, and click on OK. And we're still in the sketch, but now over on this side, we have a mirrored, two-line sketch. Okay, so we can finish the sketch now. We have what we need to do the extrusion. And we might as well name the sketch. This is the one we were working on. So click again, call this reduction. Okay, so now I'm going to do an E for extrude, and I'm going to pick two profiles. Now you see here that the arrow is coming towards me, just arbitrarily selected by Fusion. So this would be a negative extrude. And here as well. And now I'm going to push it in the opposite direction. So I can either type in -8, or I can do a distance of all. And it's automatically selected for a cut operation. Okay. All right, so we are 2 tenons away from completion here of all the timbers in the first bent. So I'm going to click here, make a sketch, and get my rectangle tool by pressing R. Intersect here, tab there and make that 2 inches, and then hit D for dimension, click here and here, pull this up, and that's going to be 2 inches. So that is ready to go. Finish the sketch, name it, tenon, extrude it, E, select this profile, pull it back. Now in this case, this is going to be a through tenon. So this is going to come through the post. So while we're in this extrude, we can go up here and say, all right, we want post 1B to be visible. And we can see that tenon coming through. So it's kind of a judgment, how far do you want to go? I would say even 12 inches gives us plenty here. So I'm going to type in 12 right here and hit enter. Okay, so there's our through tenon. Now we want to do the same thing on the other side, but we're going to project the other sketch, or we can even project this geometry right here. So let me show you how to do that. We are still in tie 1BC, our inner tie. We're going to pre-select a surface, create a sketch, hit P for project, spin around here, and just kind of hover over this center. Let's see if we can get the whole thing. Okay, so it says one thing projected. Let's come around here. That's not what I want. So I'm going to kill that. I'm going to say, all right, I want this line, this line, this line, and this line. And I've got 4 selected in the dialog box. So now when I come around to the sketch plane, I should see it. It's kind of faint, but I see purple lines there. So I click OK. And now those purple lines are projected, but they're still in the sketch that we're creating. So I'm done. I'm going to finish the sketch, and I'm going to rename it to tenon 2, our opposite side tenon. Hit enter, and now I know that I want to extrude this, so I click on the profile, press E for extrude, pull this, type in 12, and let's go ahead and show post 1C. Oh, post, there it is, post 1C. All right. And let's go ahead and hide sketches. And so let's do a little cleanup here. We've got all the timbers defined that we want, but we've got some extra stuff showing. So how do you find sketches that you want to hide is the question. And there's a very easy way to do that. If you see some sketch geometry here like this, I can click on it, and when I go over to the browser, I'm seeing a little squiggle line here. So if I open that up, I'm seeing a squiggle line here in sketches, and I can see, okay, I'm going to hide all those sketches. Great. So I didn't have to explore through the browser to find that. Same thing here. It's like I've got an origin showing. If I click on that and come over here, I can see, oh, that's what that is. So I'll just hide it. And again, since I had it selected, it leaves this selection behind. So I'm just going to click outside of it. All right. So we've got 4 posts and 3 ties. So that's going to be the end of this video. In the next video, we're going to come put braces on this and then do all of our mortises.